content when we're going on Clubhouse. There's so much nuggets and values on there. You can't sometimes. I want to come back and record it. Or the other day I've done on my iPhone, I swiped down and I tried recording and it come up in Clubhouse. You're not allowed to record this. You'll get kicked off. And I was like, oh, wow. So they've got an algorithm in there to stop you from screen recording. So there's so much missed. So I thought, yeah, let's do the Clubhouse. A lot of audience on there at the moment. But then also we don't miss that. If anybody wants to watch over it again, they can watch it again. So yeah, let's get started. A bit of a flaff there with the tech, but let's get started. So thanks, Tej, for jumping on and allowing me to interview you. I've been a quite admirer for a while. I'm really impressed with the space and what you've done. Today, I really want to interview you around brand, really. You know, that obviously is the main thing you're doing, but it's so impressive. I see so many people talk about, I'm coaching people now as well. So many people say, oh, I can't start building a brand until I've got a property, or I need to start going until I've done that. I need to I've done something. I just love your story. Every time people say that to me, I say, go and look at what Tej's done. He come from a standing start still from property and built his knowledge as he was going along by doing this. And so, yeah, I'm so intrigued with that. But the unfortunate thing is results are not typical. You know, not everybody's going to do what you've got to do. And the thing what happens most of the time, and I've done this myself when it first come to building brand and doing my first videos and that, was I pretended to myself I didn't need to do it because it was easier than admitting to myself that I was scared to do it. And I heard a saying from Tim Ferriss once saying, the thing you want to do the least is often the thing you need to do the most to excel yourself forward. So and progress and happiness is on the side of progress. So you've constantly got to be moving yourself forward, excelling yourself forward and pushing yourself out of that comfort zone just enough that you ain't too overwhelmed, but just to push forward. Otherwise you're never going to progress or feel fulfilled with what you're doing. So yeah, big thing I try and push people on, but I'll let you introduce yourself. I think most people know you already because of your branding has been so well, but some people in my audience might not know you so well. I'm reading your book. I'm about halfway through at the moment. So I've done my research on you, but I thought it'd be nicer for you just to tell a little bit of your backstory, how you come about it. And yeah, it's interesting. I really like the story. So if you don't mind sharing that for my audience, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, currently I'm a property investor, a podcaster, an author. I do public speaking, or I did. Now it's Zoom speaking, but you know, when it was a thing, I was public speaking quite a lot. I've raised £648,000 of private finance, and that's all buy-to-lets. So it was all used to buy buy-to-lets, a couple of flips, and an SA. And I purchased 15 properties in my first 9 months in property. Obviously took a big stop when lockdown happened and you know, we couldn't kind of do anything and everything was uncertain. So I've kind of been finishing things off for the past, I don't even know, year that we've been in lockdown. I mean, ridiculous. So yeah, I built that portfolio very quickly and, you know, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone who wants to stay sane and healthy. You know, I think something I say now is I would have grown quicker if I slowed down. Like I would have actually had more houses if I slowed down and they would have been done better. But you live and you learn, eh? And I mean, before that, I studied biochemistry at King's and then I worked in marketing, got fired, started a recruitment company, which as much as I didn't like it, taught me so much about dealing with rejection, getting told no, and just kind of maybe being persuasive or having some negotiation skills. And then, yeah, and I got into property. And as you kind of said, I started the podcast and I suppose I started my social media 3 or 4 months before I actually had my first property. I don't even think I did a viewing until a month after my first podcast. So I started early with it.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. It's a really good journey as well. I had the same. I buy for investors also, and it sounds glamorous. Everybody from the outside in looks at it and it sounds a bit glamorous, but bought about probably 45, 50 properties in 2-year period and all remotely. So 4 hours away. But as I said, that come with massive trade-offs. And this is what I love when I've been following you is you're pretty clear about the trade-offs for it. Yes, you've had a bit of acceleration, but yes, there's been a massive trade-off and some hard work in between them. There's so many people that sell dreams of, okay, that's why I said the results are not typical because everybody thinks, okay, build a brand. Let's get a Facebook page and an Instagram account and the business will come flooding. They don't realize in between, you need to have a strategical plan of doing some work. You know, you need to take actionable steps. And all them people that sit back in their business have worked really hard at the front end to be able to get in the position to sit back. You've always got to trade up that growth spell. I know for certain, I tried growing into lettings and buying properties at the same time, and it definitely held me back. I've done about 80 deals to date, and if I didn't go into the lettings and try to grow that, which has been an absolute disaster, I've only just balanced it to make sort of break even. And I cringe when people say to me, I'm going to get into lettings and sales. I'm like, you don't realize how hard of a business that is. Like, there's so many, there's so much regulation and elements that you've got to do just to make sure things are done correctly. You need so much systems and processes behind it. I cringe when people say to me they want to get into it, but either way, I done exactly the same. If I hadn't tried growing that and tried growing multiple things at the same time, I definitely would have had a larger portfolio. But as you said, you learn. But the experience I got from it was ginormous. I remember beginning of last year, January, I was grafting away and hustling away, whatever the word is, and drowning and just trying to keep my head above water, especially on the letting side. So I was earning money from buying properties for investors and planning a lot of that into just the team I'd built. And I built a far too big team, and I needed to really systemize it. But like a lot of investors as well, I was interested in buying properties, not managing them. So I hired some people, didn't have a system, so I just spat out my head, said to him, look, do this, and then got on with buying properties. But every property we bought was compounding the problem, so I had to really stop. And then last year I bought January, you got a first profit. I think it was about £700, just short of £700 in a lettings company, and that was about 4 years coming of losing money every year. And because I weren't focusing on it, I was just doing too many other things. But last year I said to myself, look, if I could rewind back 4 years, or not have 4 years, rewind that 4 years, time's my biggest asset. So if I said, look, wipe out that 4 years, but I don't have the knowledge and the experience I gained getting to there, I'll give you £1 million for that £700 right now. I wouldn't have swapped it. That is a genuine truth. Like the experience that I've gained leading to it and what I learned was worth way more than maybe buying more properties that I probably would have had or making that profitable a little bit quicker, But yeah, I definitely was trying to grow too quick. I was trying to open a building company at the same time, and just trying to spin too many plates. Just add that shiny penny syndrome is the word. But what come first? Did you set up your podcast, or did you set up your social media presence first, or was it simultaneous?
So I set up the podcast first, and then I quickly realized, hold on a minute, this is not really a social media. It's just kind of it's very one dimensional. I'm talking, people are listening. There's no comments, likes, none of that stuff. So hold on a minute, I'm putting content out there, or I'm trying to. People can find it by searching for it, and that's cool. But I thought, hold on a minute, I really need to actually get people to listen to it somehow. And the only real way I could get people to listen to it, I suppose, was by, directing them there from a social media. So yeah, I think I did the podcast for like a few weeks. And then I think after a while, I thought, yeah, I need to do something else. So I set the Instagram up, set Facebook up. I think Instagram came later actually, and then just started posting stuff to kind of get people to the podcast. And it took ages, at the start I was just saying stuff like, hey, I've spoken to Richard and he's talking about XYZ, have a listen. Whereas now it's just posting content that gets people, instead of me saying, here's the podcast, here's what they spoke about, which I do, it's more just, oh, Tej posted something interesting. I wonder if he's got more of that on his podcast. I wonder what else he's sharing on the podcast. So it kind of evolved over time. But yeah, at the start, it was definitely podcast and then social media.
Okay. And you said you come from a marketing background. This question was a little bit further in, but it's to spark my interest on that now. So you said you come from a marketing background. So did you start building your brand beforehand? So like with the yellow stuff, where did that idea and all that come from? So did you start building that before the podcast? Did you launch that with that brand, or did you morph into that as you started getting going?
Good question. I can't even remember. I think that I started with the logo being yellow and the kind of logo being what it is. And then, it only really became like the watermarks on everything, the yellow background pictures after a while, I think. At the start, it wasn't as uniform. It wasn't kind of it wasn't a brand. It was kind of me learning a brand and kind of building into it. So no, there wasn't as much thought as I would put now and as I tell people to put now. So it kind of came afterwards. Yeah.
So how comes, you don't usually associate, different brands get associated with different sort of different colors, don't they? You know, like when you think green, you think sort of money, you think just different colors usually get that mind association. So what brought you to yellow? You know, it's not, I can't think of many in the property space.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I was wearing it one time and probably thought I looked good. So I'm just going to wear yellow. You know what it was? I wanted a color that, okay, I wanted a color I think that would make my life easier. So I could do gray, I could do black, I could do blue. But, you know, I say this, like when I used to public speak, I'd say, look around the room, people, and what would everyone be wearing? Gray, black, blue, maybe a bit of white. And so I would say, like, well, none of you stand out. And who stands out? This. So by choosing this color, it made my life easier from day one in terms of, you know, but if I was posting something or I want to get someone's attention or get an awesome guest on, or, you know, it just helped me instead of blending in and being, oh, that's Tej, you know, he's another property investor. It became, oh, what's this yellow thing? And I also thought when you look at like a list of podcasts on your little podcast app, again, they tend to be a certain range of colors. Now, what I did was thought, hold on a minute, when people are scrolling through their podcast lists, I want them to maybe, again, spot me and have it standing out. So I suppose it was, I like the color. It is unusual, like you said, I think for brands generally, but also in property, but it stands out. It really, really stands out from everyone else. And I think yellow has a psychological, well, all colors have a psychological impact, but I think it's kind of optimistic and happy and energetic. So yeah, quite a few reasons, I suppose, that the color is important.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely relates with, you think yellow, happy, don't you? Straight away. So
yeah,
definitely relates with that. Was that a conscious decision at the front end, or was that a subconscious thing, or?
A bit of both. I think I chose it because I really liked it, and then a few factors. And as I kind of researched it and really solidified, okay, is yellow my thing? Then the other reasons kind of came to my knowledge, and I thought, yeah, this makes sense. We should, you know, let's go with yellow.
Ah, excellent. Right, so let's throw my order of questions out. But branding, you said you had a bit of a marketing background. Obviously, you had your recruitment thing. How you studied? Like, you've not just stumbled on this, and I would love to think you're a mad genius and you've just popped up with all these ideas, but you can see there's a strategical plan. You can see you've studied, you can see you read. Who've been your influences around marketing? What have you studied? What are you studying?
So, yeah, I think so. My background was kind of, they call it medical education. So it is marketing, but it's kind of more like, not boring marketing, but it's like scientific marketing where you're speaking to a doctor, you're speaking to a nurse, you can't be as, you know, side of a bus advert with them when it comes to the medical stuff. So, I'm liking the yellow now. I'm liking the ochre, the mustard. You know, it's kind of marketing where you can't use certain language. It's tricky in that sense. So because of that, yeah, I learned a bit from that in terms of how to phrase things and maybe design things. But you know what? It was in my recruitment days. There must have been something or someone, and I thought I should, you know, do something like that. I should write copy like that. I should maybe design stuff like that. But to be honest, like, I've read Seth Godin and I don't really get him. Like, I read the books and I don't know, I just sort of read them and thought, what have I learned? What is he talking about? Maybe I just don't get him. But he's obviously a genius and he's obviously incredible. But I just can't, yeah, it just didn't work on me. So I'm trying to look at my bookshelf and see is there an influence, but I don't think there is. I think the influence is just seeing brands in real life, seeing companies grow, you know, looking at things and saying, I like how that's designed, and it influences me to then do it. So there isn't really one single person who I think, yeah, you know what, when I started out, they really inspired me. Or even now, there's no one I look to and think, I want to do that. There might be a few people in property, like, who are doing cool designs and things like that, but I don't know. It just sort of flowed, I suppose.
Yeah. So just accumulation of watching other things and then just blending it into where you're at. I'm so glad you said that about Seth Godin. I've read loads of Seth Godin's books. I keep on reading them thinking, exactly the same. I don't get this. I don't get where. I don't get him exactly what you're saying, but I keep on reading them, thinking because so many people talk about him. So, and obviously, as you said, he's a genius. He's not in the position and status that he's at for no reason. So that's why I'm like, okay, if somebody keeps on saying something about something, I think there's got to be truth in it. Like just because I didn't see the truth in it myself, I still, I don't get him myself. So I'm glad I've never said that out loud. I'm glad you said that first because I don't fully either. There's a few bits I've linked onto, but his whole sort of approach, I've not always got. But in property, obviously, I'm guessing if everybody has read Rich Dad Poor Dad or familiar with his concepts and the cash flow quadrant. So I've said, I've modeled that basically. I said, look, there's an investor quadrant that I think everybody goes through. So it's from hands-free investor, part-time investor, solopreneur investor, and entrepreneur investor. There's 4 different types of investor that you'll get. Hands-free is somebody who's got a business, enjoys a business, but pays somebody to do it for them, and they've got no interest in property apart from just having a better use of their money. Part-time is somebody that's got a job but enjoys a job. Like I know a guy who works for Google, but he likes viewing properties, but he don't want to give up his job, so he wants to do it on the side hustle. Solopreneur is somebody that is full-time in property, but they are the business. Like they do everything. Like they do all their marketing. They wear every hat in their business, all their bookkeeping, everything. They might have a VA maybe, but they are the business. Then entrepreneur is somebody that sets it up as a business, so they've got the opportunity to work in or out of it if they want. So if they got shot to Mars on one of Elon Musk's missions, they come back and their business is still moving, not just moving, still growing. It's got hiring processes. It's all procedured out. So you seem to be the only I say to people, you've got to either start in part-time, hands-free or part-time. But you seem to have jumped straight into the solopreneur. I think you're about the only case study I know that's jumped straight into a solopreneur status. With that, are you still a solopreneur? Are you just all the business? Are you doing everything, or you've built a team around what you're doing now?
So I would say to I suppose go to the beginning of that point, which is yes, I was trying to do it when I had my recruitment business and when I was contracting for a company. Like I tried to do property at the same time, and I was educating at that time, so I wasn't as active as such. I just thought, you know what, I struggle to focus like anyway. Like this is one of the things I struggle with, and I thought, hold on a minute, I'm doing this part-time contract and kind of doing my business, and I want to do property X many miles from home, and like it's just not going to work. So I just thought, why make it difficult on myself? I had enough savings for a year, 2 years, whatever. You know, it was a contract. It was paying very well. And so I just said, you know what, in order for this to work, and I know I'll make it work. I made a recruitment business work. I didn't even enjoy it. This is something I know I'm going to enjoy. Let's just make it work. And so I did it. And, it was sensible because obviously I had 12 to 24 months of savings. So just for people listening, you obviously have to put certain things in place before you do that. It's not just like, I was like, let's just quit. Because I would, and I used those savings because buy-to-lets and all the problems I had. So it shows you need that. I would say I would say I'm the solopreneur, but because they're buy-to-lets and they're as passive as, I can get, and everything is done from my phone and it's minimal time every month, it kind of feels like the entrepreneur part because what I'm doing is so minimal and I'm not on site fixing a leak. I'm just texting someone saying, can you go fix this? I'm not carrying any stress from it either. So yeah, kind of a bit of both. I mean, I do have VAs who do bits and bobs and I'm outsourcing more and more as time goes along, but I don't, like with property, I don't want to hire staff. I don't want it to become like a business, I suppose. It is a business and it's treated like one, but really it's a portfolio business where the portfolio is the business. I don't want someone on sourcing. I don't want someone on, I want to hire professionals in when needed, but I want it to be like I do the parts I enjoy, interior design, working with agents, whatever it is, outsource the bits that need to be and make it work that way. People are annoying. People are obviously very, very helpful and they form a huge part of our businesses. But if I can avoid having staff in property and, in another business in the future, I probably will have staff. That's what I want. So kind of a bit of both, but it feels more like an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Well, you're leading as well. Obviously, you started your e-learning with and coaching side of things, which is obviously a logical step. But your business as well, your brand is kind of your business as well, isn't it? it is the bloodline of all your business. But I get that with the property side. Are you outsourcing this? I think I've seen a post from you saying about you use sources as well to just find your deals. Is that one of your?
Well, my first 2 ever deals were from sources. I haven't used them since because most are shit. I would say that now, because I'm doing like developments or getting into developments and flips and other stuff in Hertfordshire where I live, so bigger things as people like to call it, I kind of want to focus more on that because it's local and it's more interesting to me and it's more my passion, basically being able to spend more money on interior design. All the buy-to-lets that I want, so I want 12 more this year. I'm happy to use sources in my area, sources that I know and have vetted and picked to find it, because yes, I'm going to have a 20% less, ROI gross on the end of it. But if I've almost done nothing apart from get the funding, which is my own business anyway, I kind of am like, you know what? The development and flip profit from here will pay down any extra money I've left in anyway. So I've kind of worked it out that it kind of is circular. And then of course the rent from those buy-to-lets will cover my living and maybe even some of the development expense. So it's kind of a circle I've created now where I am happy to work with sources if they can get good deals.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a remote investor as well, and that's another question I was about to lead on and ask you about, is picking to do it remotely. And I say to people, look, so many people say only invest where you live, only invest in an hour. If you live in London or around London, any which direction within an hour, if you've only got 30k to get started, any which direction you're going to go, the strategical advantage of that is zero. My first property was within an hour. Before, this was 11 years ago, I bought property within an hour with zero education back then. Just dived in. I want to get in property, didn't know anything about it. I bought a piece of land first of all, which was a massive mistake. I thought I'd just do a bit of development. I lost lots of money. Luckily, that loss was a bit of a delayed effect because I bought some houses in between and got the bug, like, didn't lose straight away and get put off. But I bought a place in Southend. So I was born in Stratford, but I grew up in a little village called Aveley, just still on the inside of the M25, but just the start of Essex. And I not knew, but I just didn't have the funds to go into London. So I went further the other way within an hour. This was no education. Nobody told me this at the time. Wasn't even on the internet at the time. And it turned out I bought within an hour, and it turned out I bought right in the middle of a red light district. So at night time, there was ladies of the night walking past my flat. And in the morning, 4 doors up from my house, there was a drug rehabilitation centre. So these ladies, it wasn't like Amsterdam. You go there, it's quite classy and a cool experience. This was like heroin addicts, crack addicts, walking the street at night to get their fix. And then in the morning, they was queuing up just down the road to get their medicine and rehabilitation. So I was like, wow, this is what broke that myth for me. I was like, I didn't know Southend, which was within 50 minutes away, no better than I knew Stockton-on-Tees, which was 4 hours away. But in fact, I knew Stockton-on-Tees better because I met a guy from there. He'd moved down, he had 70 odd properties, he had several businesses in the area, so I knew someone. And this is what I say to people today, that meeting for me was chance, but it's not so chance today. You can go online. Like, I've never met you, Tej, but I know you are. I know you in Wales, so I can connect with somebody in Wales if I want to come to Wales because I've seen you online. I've seen your social proof. Similar again, I could go to Liverpool. I could go to any major city in the UK and connect with somebody much more simpler than it's ever been. It's not, I'd say it's simple and easy, not always the same thing. You still have to make an effort. You still have to turn up online. You still have to communicate with them, network with them. But networking online today is much more possible, which makes this whole thing more possible. Similar again, if you want to find a sourcer in that location, go online. You'll see them. You'll check out their history, see what they're doing, the deals they're doing. So it makes it so much more accessible. But what was the shift for you? What did you think Wales was like? Again, when you're starting, I might be answering some of these for you, apologies. But when you start, again, people say about raise other people's money, but saving up or raising other people's money is so much easier with a smaller pot if you've got to buy a place in Wales than it would be if you're going to be in Hertfordshire, London, to get that credibility to do that. And also the risks. You said you made some mistakes. Making mistakes on deals that are 100k, which you can finance. You might finance and leave 5-10k in it, or might be a mistake that way. It's much more manageable mistakes than doing that on a development on your first go, and you're risking hundreds of thousands of pounds. So, yeah, but what took you to Wales, first of all? Sorry, it's a bit long-winded there.
Yeah, so, kind of the things you said there, I think I had a pot of, I think it was 25, 30 of my own money. And I thought, well, yeah, I can't, I lived in West London then, so same, sort of thing. three beds, like 3, 4, 100 grand. It's not happening, and the yields are crap. So I thought, okay, well, where is the closest place that I can do BRRs? Now, of course, you got Liverpool, Yorkshire, even further north, all these incredible places where it works. It absolutely does. But I think the drive was like 4 hours to them. And I thought, okay, that's cool. But Wales is 1.5 to 2 hours. And it's kind of almost the same thing. It hasn't got the same level of capital appreciation as the north. It hasn't got the same economical factors. It hasn't got the same economy, really. It is different. And so, it's not as good. Like if I could get to somewhere in a second, I'd be up north. So Wales is the best thing that was close to me. The usual stuff: strong sales market, strong rental market. And yeah, it was basically my situation, the ability to do BRRs, which you can only do in certain places, and pull, most or all of your money back out. So it was that. And like you said there, we don't, like, just because somewhere is within an hour of us doesn't mean anything. Like, we don't know it. I mean, yeah, we may know our, town. Even then we may not, because we've only been in certain areas. So you can learn about areas quickly. So I wouldn't, don't let it put people off who are listening.
Yeah, for sure. So I've lived in Brentwood now for 7 years, and I could tell you every road's not a good road in Brentwood to invest, because it's far too much money. The yields are not there. You couldn't recycle any money. But either way, if I was to choose to invest in Brentwood, I can say already, I've lived there for 7 years. I don't know the best and worst parts. So I've got no advantage from living here. So unless you grew up in a location, I grew up in a village, and there was no advantage of that because it wasn't an investment location. There's no employers there. There's no stock there. This didn't work. So, of course, if you live in a fantastic location that meets your experience level, that meets your capital that you've got, and meets the requirements, the deals you want to get into, because everybody has to think. They go into HMOs or SAs and get shiny penny syndrome, and then get in it and go, oh, wow, this is actually a bit of work. Like, I didn't realise we've got to do something. I thought this was, I'm going to be, an investor sitting on a beach, So there's always a trade-off. And when I'm coaching people, I say, look, what I say to them is, if you know somebody, so my drive is 4 hours, but because I knew that guy there, and back then as well, sort of 10 years ago, I wasn't active on the internet. The internet wasn't what it was today anyway, with the groups and everything. So back then, the trade-off was worth driving 4 hours, knowing I knew somebody there that could guide me in that area. But that's exactly what I say to people: work out, if you know someone in the area, that works well. But then work out how far away it is, but then also work out how much money you want to put into it. So many people say Manchester now, but you're probably looking at 150s for Manchester now. It's very different from Wales or Stockton-on-Tees, where I am, where you can still pick up properties between sort of 60 and 100k, So you've really got to work out the elements and then work out the trade-offs of where it's at. There's very rarely a perfect scenario. But as you said, knowing an area, Google really helps with that nowadays. You can find out crime reports, you can find out sale reports, you can find out schools. All these fundamentals in all areas are very, very similar. Some of them slightly tweaked, but then get online and just meet people and ask them questions. What's it like around here? What's this like? And yeah, just so much more accessible. But that mindset of people and that belief is there that you should only invest where you live, and it's only ever going to work that way. So yeah, I was an admirer when I come across you and you sort of broke out of that rule. I've asked lots of my questions here. Yes, they just come up naturally and led into the thing. So I'm off the train of where we're at. So let's have a look. I've asked that one.
You can hit me with any order, man. My brain doesn't work in any sort of order. So.
The order's off. I did have an order, but way the conversation led, and this always happens anyway. There were some things that naturally come up that I had in a different order. So I just got to go through and see where we're at with this. What advice would you give somebody starting out brand low? So again, I really want to think about the brand. I think building your personal your personal brand and your personal awareness is the key element in any business. And I've done a video this morning saying about this, and just a little plug on this as well. And one guy went, if you're looking for investors, maybe, but I don't see the point anywhere else. And I was like,
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, listen, estate agents, solicitors, brokers, everybody's online today. And the more touch points you get with people, I've got that here, the more touch points you get with people, not key person of influence, the more they build trust. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. Over and above what the return's going to be. Obviously, the return helps, but firstly, people got to feel a trust and know of you. And if you've got a trail of you online, these touch points get built. But what advice would you give somebody that's like, I don't know, was this the case for you? Most people see the journey, most of the time it's a journey, and most people see the end of the journey and think, oh wow, Tej is just a natural, he's fantastic here, look, like, it's easy for you, Tej, you can just stand up and do that. But was there a journey like that for you? Did you have that little point where you was a little bit scared? You do seem like a natural, by the way, but
no, I think I've always been quite brutally honest, whether I said it in the workplace or not. I mean, I did get fired, so I probably did say some stupid stuff, but I have always been honest. And so, like, I'm a bad liar. Like, you can tell. Like, if I lie, people are just like, Tej, come on, mate, shut up. Like, you're obviously lying. Like, I can't even try, right? So for me, sharing the honesty or the truth of my life and my reality and what I'm doing online was easy. And, you know, because I was just talking, like I'm talking to you, I'm talking to the camera. Like I talk to my mum, I'm talking to the camera. So kind of, it was easy in that element of having a brand. I think the big thing people are scared of is, you know, putting yourself out there and doing videos. Was I anxious with videos? No, I wasn't. I think like my strength is this, you know, I have other weaknesses where someone else listening is going to be incredible at, but my strength is quite visible because you're watching me. So you just think, oh, wow. Whereas someone who's great at Excel, you're not watching them. So for me, it just happened to be my strength and what I was good at. I did some public speaking in recruitment. You know, I did some panel events and it was pretty cool. Some pretty like big names and big events. And like I was on a panel with like one of the head of people at Monzo, and that was freaking awesome. Like they're a great company. And so I kind of built up a little bit of confidence, but I've just naturally been, I've naturally always been confident and able to speak in front of 10, 100, 10,000 people. I think, you know, for people starting a brand now, it's hard work. Like, because not as many as could be, but still a lot of people are starting brands now. And because of that, you have more competition, right? And you have competition from people who are, I suppose, educated because of the content we put out and that I put out. So it is tough, but and if you have competition, but you're not competing with people, because especially like on Instagram, for example, there is such a strong community of property investors, and I suppose now on Clubhouse as well, there is a strong community that people aren't, oh, I got more likes and you got more followers. It's all just about building it together. And I think the sooner people can internalize that, the less scared they'll be on video, the less scared they'll be to say, oh, I had a cowboy builder, you know, and it cost me a couple of grand. Because we've all had that. We're all gonna have it. If you haven't had it, you're gonna have it. Like, it's one of these things where if you can understand the environment around you, which is generally quite friendly and warm, at least on Instagram, it makes everything else easier. And, you know, videos, practice. Just look, your first video is going to be shit. Your third video is going to be shit. Your auntie's going to like it. Your dad's going to like it. And that's it. It's going to be crap. But you have to do that 10 times to then get other people to watch it and then carry on. I mean, look at some of Gary Vee's videos when he first started doing wine. They're so cringy. They're crap. Absolute trash. He knows it. We know it. But look at him now. And because he's done thousands, tens of thousands of videos, he's incredible on video. And that's all it is. It's practice. So for me, ignore competition. We're all in it together. Get educated on brand. There's not exactly much out there, but there's a lot of free stuff out there that you can listen to get educated on. I've got podcasts on it. I've got posts on it, loads of stuff. Third is, I suppose another one is like social media is social. So don't just expect likes and expect comments and engagement. You need to give love to receive it. You need to DM people. You need to speak to people. You need to create a community and create something that's going to give you what you're giving out to it. So those are my kind of non-standard tips, I suppose.
Yeah, I like that. I like what you say there. As I say to people, it's a process with it. Everybody thinks everybody just starts off fantastic. You're probably one of them. You probably peed a lot of people off with that exceptional reward and saying I wasn't scared, and everybody's thinking, oh no, I shouldn't be scared. It's probably made it harder for everybody. But I say to people, look, probably 99 out of 100 people that start doing videos and start doing this are scared. You know, You get the odd exceptional person, the odd exceptional rule that's generally comfortable in that space. But even when they are scared, as you said, I reckon Gary Vee wasn't scared at the front. He seemed so confident. But he said they start a process where they start not so good and they grow into this process. And the good thing is, and you sort of kind of touched on this, is when you start, only your mum and your uncle or a few people out of curiosity is going to look at it anyway. But as you're practicing, and you get better, so does your audience get bigger. So you don't want to practice at the front end and have hundreds of likes and hundreds of people watching you, because you are going to be a bit crap at the front end. So it's sort of a self-fulfilling thing. People kind of get peed off because they only got 1 like or 2 likes from their mum and their nan, but then they kind of don't want to be an audience that big straight away, and need to practice beforehand and go through the process. You look at, I always example Oasis, or you do it with comedians as well. They go around busking. You look at whole videos. Ed Sheeran went around busking. He was terrible. Even his voice was terrible, and he just carried on practicing. And he was writing songs, practicing. And his first album he brought out was an accumulation of all that practicing, doing it live, all that busking, and all the best songs. So when he's busking and someone gets a reaction, he's like, okay, that's a good song. You know, the other one, that's not a good song. So when you start out, you go through this journey, that got some engagement, that didn't get engagement, that was good, and you practice, and you start slowly crafting and honing your message and your skill. And then by the time you've honed that and practiced, that's when your audience should naturally have followed with it. But I feel so many people getting held up from it is that fear. One of the big fears is, which hopefully this is one of the main reasons I brought you on, that this dispels it for people, is I need to have done a deal, I need to know what I'm doing. Say if I make a mistake, it's like, be honest with where you're at. That your journey, people will resonate with that, you know. But also I say this as well, look, when you go back to school, when you went in the playground, there was that odd kid that was popular and everybody just loved, everybody wanted to hang around with, and everybody loved, and there was those odd popular kids, but everybody had groups and everybody had communities. Even the most nerdy or unpopular kids, whatever you want to call them, I don't want to say a bad word about these kids, but they all at least had 1 or 2 friends. So then if you do that there is going to be somebody that resonates with you. So if you multiply that when you use social media, everybody's going to have that person that resonates with them. And marketing and business really is attracting the people that will do business with you and repelling the others. And the others who don't like you are not going to carry on watching you, and good, because they'll never probably do business with you anyway, or you'll never give them value, or you value back. I think that's one of the biggest hang-ups is people just too scared of what other people are going to think of them, you know. So yeah,
I think, you know, it's like, you know, if we take an example of, like, you know, you got someone who, I don't know, starts an Instagram profile and they're ripped, they got the best body ever, great, you know, people are obviously going to follow it. But I think the emotional connection is built obviously in a few different ways, but a big way is when, if that person was overweight before and they went from whatever transformed into this, that journey, which is like us, every property we buy, it's kind of like that journey. That's where the emotions are built, and that's where people connect, because they, at some stage, from overweight to being super ripped and whatever, we all are on that scale in life, right, physically. And so we relate at different stages of their journey, and it builds a deeper connection. Just like properties, you could have 10, I could be on my 8th. Well, I'm thinking, hold on, I want to learn from your 9th and 10th properties now, because I'm just 2 behind you. Someone who has none, someone who has 4, they want to learn from that. So actually, yeah, you know, start early, because, and also when you start early, you get a lot of followers who are new, which is really useful, because you can build a community where you're all learning together. So it's in your best interest to start early. You get different followers, and then as you evolve, you get different followers again. So it's better for you, in fact.
Yeah, something so much more relatable. Especially the larger you get, the more unrelatable you actually get. Some people admire you, but it's such a distance between where they are and you are, or anybody is when they get really large. It sometimes becomes unrelatable. Like you said, that ripped body. There was a guy, I can't remember his name, I think Reese something. It's called Fit to Fat to Fit. So he was super ripped and super fit. Something like that. It's called. It's great brand he done. I can't remember the name of it. I'll have to look at it. I'll send it over to you afterwards. But Fit to Fat to Fit, I'm sure that's what it was called. And he just purposely ate loads of crap, stopped exercising, and put loads and loads of weight on. So he was ripped, and he said, I'm going to do an experiment and see what it feels like to. He said, it's okay for me. This has been my habit for years. Since young, I've been just naturally fit. Like, he was into sports from school. I can't remember the full story, but it went something like this, in case I'm butchering it and somebody's heard this before. But he was naturally fit. Got himself fitness, but he was like, okay, I'm unrelatable to some people. So he gained loads and loads of weight, and as an experiment, stopped exercising, stopped eating well, just started eating crap. He'd done an experiment on his mental health with that as well, you know, and how he felt, and then come back to it. So that's what I said, Fit to Fat to Fit. I'm sure it's called that. And the journey of that was really good, but also the connection he got with people going through that, and then them seeing, look, I'm just not naturally fit, because some people just think, okay, Tej is just a natural podcast and raising finance. They don't realise there was an effort in between of that. So his following absolutely went through the roof, and his programs, what he done, absolutely went through the roof because he become much more relatable. He actually put himself back to that starting point and made himself so much more relatable. So yeah, so many people miss out. My friend's doing a camper van thing at the moment, converting a van into a camper, and he's like, once I've finished it, I'll post. I'm like, that journey in between is, you're just going to miss so much, you know, you're going to leave so much more on the table. It is sad, but yeah, I think so many people are in their own head and posted, and I know you're into Stoic. I posted a thing, Stoic a quote the other week saying about so many, I can't remember it verbatim word for word, but the general drift of it was, we care about ourselves so much. Why do we care about other people's opinions? I can't remember the exact quote.
Cato said it. I think it's along the lines of, we love ourselves so much, yet we listen to other people's opinions over our own, something like that. Yeah,
it's so powerful. You've quoted Stoic philosophies for helping you, like with rage from growing up from younger and bring you through this. What part do you think people need to play on it? So people say mindset, and it gets a bit wishy-washy now because everybody says mindset. But of course, that's a philosophy as a mindset. I really enjoy Stoic. I really enjoy Buddhism. See loads of relatability to them. A lot of religions have got so many relatable points to them, you know. And I think it's about finding which one works with you. But how do you think? Like you've explained that. So explain to my audience how you think that's impacted what your progression has been, you know.
Yeah, so I would say it's impacted it hugely. I mean, I think, you know, you have to find something you resonate with. So for me, I think that it's the first one I picked up. And, you know, I noticed after reading some of Ryan Holiday's books, I think it was The Obstacle is the Way. I've never ever had a book where I read it, and as soon as I read it, I changed. Like my mind, it just changed the way I perceive things. And I mean, it is kind of repetitive, but you only realize it later. But it's for a reason. It's because as you go along it's teaching you a kind of core concept over and over again. I have to hold on a minute. I am noticing daily my perception has changed in this element. What is this magic? So, you know, I read more of it, and it had a big impact. And for me, I think, you know, our ego ruins, well, everything, frankly. And I think, you know, ego is the enemy is another one of his books, and the Stoics talk, and all religions talk about ego, whether they call it ego or some sort of, you know, demon in our head, or the chimp, you know, in the Chimp Paradox.
Yeah.
And actually, my mother got me a chimp to remind me not to be one. So every day I have a chimp staring at me, and that's the ego. And so from Stoicism, I've essentially learned how to better control the ego, and how to not let it ruin relationships, deals, not to let me get ahead of myself, not to respond to someone in a certain way because they've said something I don't like. And, you know, the central thing of Stoicism for me is, and I forget the Stoic quote, but Shakespeare said it. He said, nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And it's kind of like, well, you could say something now, Harvey, and I could either say, oh, he's insulting me saying this, or I could think, oh, he's being really nice to me. You know, a deal could fall out and I spent 400 quid on legal fees, but it saved me 40 grand with a bad title. I've now learned that actually, yeah, a deal falling out, is it a bad thing? Well, no, it's how I perceive it. And it's with everything, right? You know, it's, oh, you got rejected, no, by an estate agent. Okay, well, how am I going to perceive that? Is it me? Is it me personally? Or no? Is it just life and the situation? So for me, removing or trying to remove ego and changing your perception of the world. And then I suppose the third concept I kind of take from it, and there's quite a few, is can you change it? Okay, change it. Can you not change it? Okay, accept it. Simple as that. And for me, that again to business and life, you know, okay, well, we're waiting on a document and there's no way to speed this up. Am I going to sit here, get angry, get annoyed, throw my toys out the pram? No, because I can't change it. Oh, hold on, this solicitor's being a bit slow. I can change them in a second. I'll change them. And so that acceptance or that action taking is important. Of course, as you know, there's many other, you know, virtues and things they speak about. But for me, those three core ones changed how I look at business, really. And I read it every day. You know, I got the Daily Stoics every morning. I'm reading it. I'm, you know, getting into philosophy every day, and it's priceless. Honestly, the price of these books versus how much it's done for me as a human, you can't compare it.
Yeah, and I like that. So what I got from that also is that, and this is a Stoic thing. Focus on the controllables. Life is only there's no real reality. The reality is your perception of what that life is. So I had a guy come around the other week, and I buy some. I like buying gold coins, and he's popped round, and he's in a bit of a hole. He trades in gold and diamonds and that, and he's come round. He got some gold for me, and he was saying about the conspiracy of COVID and then Facebook, and I said, listen, he said, what, you don't think it's right? Look at Bill Gates. And I'm like, I don't think Bill Gates is an evil emperor myself personally, but I said, who knows? I don't know. I said, but the thing is, I said, the world is only your perception of it. I said, with below the conscious level of thinking, if you keep on buying into these conspiracies and all these theories, what will happen in your subconscious mind? 90% of what we do is driven from the subconscious. So what happens gives you a victim mentality. Your brain is always going to be searching out for whose fault was it? Why is it somebody else's fault that I've done this? And this will hold you back beyond your conscious level of thinking. Consciously, you're thinking it's not holding me back, but beyond that, what you can comprehend will hold you back massively. And you've got to focus on the controllables. Say Bill Gates is an evil emperor and he's earning double his wealth from these vaccinations and he started COVID. What can we do about it? All you can do is your perception. So the world is your perception, how you see it. So if I see the world as a happy place, every day my mind is called the ticker activating system. It's like the spam filter in our brain that searches out things and our confirmation biases. So my mind every day just searches for the good, what's out there, and searches for the good in that situation and the controllables in that situation of what I can control with it. Of course, not perfectly sometimes. Emotions and egos get the better of me, but my awareness of that when it happens, to look at that and not try and justify it logically afterwards and see what's happened, helps me like keep on moving forward. And I think that's just a quest. That's why if you have these daily readings and if you keep on, like people say to me, why do you keep on reading books that are similar that you read before? It's like, because that repetition, you don't realize where 90% of it comes from our subconscious mind. That's been built in, not consciously either. So that's from your environment. That's from your parents, from your friends, from your teachers, from the books you read, from the TV you watch. This is all building up a message in your subconscious mind unconsciously. I think it's Jim Rohn says you should guard the gateway to your brain really, really wisely and be careful what gets put in, because that will become your perception of the world. And what you believe, as I said, the ticker activating system is a part in your brain. It's just a fancy word for a spam filter that tries to make truth of everything you focus on and thinks right. So it's like when you think, I'm going to buy a new Audi, all of a sudden you see Audis everywhere. You used to see them before, but your brain just don't see them. I don't know, have you seen that, the chimp playing basketball video?
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And this amount of people, there's a new one out of that as well. And even though I knew what was happening, there's a newer version of that. And I was like, have you seen a newer version? I'm not even going to tell you now then. I'm just going to send you over this newer version, because the thing is, you're going to probably look out for something now because you know that. Because I knew what I was looking out for, I missed the new thing. I was like, oh, wow. I'm like, yeah, really, really interesting. But give us a book recommendation. What's a good book for you?
Apart from my own, obviously.
Yeah, that's good.
I would say, I'm just looking at my shelf here. I mean, if I had to pick one, and one that's quite accessible, because I think some people with Stoicism just think it's whatever, I would say The Chimp Paradox by Professor Stephen Peters is basically like Buddhism, like Stoicism, but in a more scientific, easy to explain, easy to process kind of way. And I think it's a good start before you look into philosophy, which may be a bit, some people don't like it, some people think it's a bit dense. This is a great concept. And if you can master the chimp and the computer and the kind of way he structures it, I think your business will change and improve multiple from that one book.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the start. Work starts in yourself. Everybody knows what to do, but there's a knowledge action gap. I like Mel Robbins. You said that 5-second rule. And that's, again, that's driven from your subconscious mind. There's a knowledge action gap. We all know to eat better. We all know if we walk and exercise. The thing is, you eat something that tastes nice, lasts for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, a minute, maybe, the enjoyment, and feel crap all day. But everybody I've seen who does it, they work out for a week and they go, I feel so much better. So you're 24 hours of feeling better for exchange of 5 minutes of feeling crap. But there's a 5-second thing. It's beyond your conscious thinking. There's a little knowledge action gap, but you just get caught out in so quickly that, yeah, the more you can learn about how your brain operates. And Chimp Paradox is one of the first ones I come across, because when I started reading it, it's talking about limbic systems and your prefrontal cortex. And I was like, all this just sounds confusing. It took me years even to learn them. So I make myself sound probably smarter than I am. But when he explained it in a way as your computer and your chimp, and it's like a bouncer on the door, and it has to get through that part. And we're emotional beings, and we then justify everything we do afterwards logically. But the problem is, them emotions happen within a second before we've logically thought about it. And so if you can get some handle on understanding that and understanding yourself, yeah, massively will push you forward. Gone in a slightly different direction of where I thought it was going to go, but I've really enjoyed that. Got a quick couple of questions before we end up, and I'm conscious of your time, and I know it was a mix up of time. Shane, in my group, I asked a few questions. Shane asked, if you had a choice where you said, right, okay, tomorrow, starting again, you either have your brand or your properties, what would you go with? So I think I know the answer to this one, but it's quite a good question. So you can have all the money from your properties, so to be in the financial position from your properties, but no brand, or your brand and no financial position starting tomorrow. What would you go?
I would probably go... Oh, this is tricky, because if you go with the properties, then you then have properties to build a brand off, which can speed things up. If you go for your brand, then of course you've got the capability to do it all again.
Let me jump in there then. So, okay, starting tomorrow though, without your knowledge of your brand either, so not knowing what to do with a brand. So starting from scratch, from knowledge. You've got your money, you've got your properties there, but starting from scratch, even way beyond your recruitment stuff and that.
I think I would probably go brand, because at least with that I can do property and other stuff. You know, I can still take that knowledge and build a business with whatever with a brand. Whereas with the property stuff, I think I'm lacking something. Anyone can buy a property. Anyone can do property. Same with a brand, but I think a brand is a bit more niche and a bit more powerful, at least in the digital age. So it's not a big gap here. It's close. I'd go for the brand.
Yeah, I thought you might have swung towards that, but yeah, I thought that answer helped with that. But
I just don't want to buy 30 properties again and go through all that shit again that I've done. So that's what's keeping me. But yeah.
But okay, a final question. So, in one word, first thing that comes to your mind, describe what you want from life.
Cheese came to mind first, but I'm obviously hungry. I think freedom is what. Yeah, so I've got a little mission in life as well. I say, and this is a bit of a philosophy, although I'm no philosopher, I'm not going to claim myself as that, but I'm doing a little mission. It's a back mission, burning away in the background, but I want to try and make people aware of that and aware of their self. When you ask every question, I've asked hundreds of people this question now, and it always leads back to something that means happiness. So happiness is just basically, on a scientific level, accumulation of chemicals that fire off with our emotions, depending on what happens. We can't be happy all the time. Buddhism says this, the Four Noble Truths is all suffering, and people think, wow, I thought it's meant to be happy. But it's understanding, be aware of suffering. So happiness is a lifelong quest. So this is why, as I said, you read the books, you keep some sort of philosophic, you don't have to be a philosopher or read philosophy, but some sort of understanding that what made you happy, what made me happy 4 years ago is different today with my son being 3 years old. Even now, it's different from when he was 1 year old. And it was different when I had a portfolio that was maybe 5 properties than it was when my portfolio expanded to 10 or to 30, or we had done 80 deals. It changes all the time. So you've got that awareness of constantly trying to push towards it. But I think the end goal is for some sort of level of well-being and happiness, and that's why I say it's figuring out happy, because it's a lifelong quest. If you're happy today, don't guarantee you're gonna be happy tomorrow. Something will happen that will get in the way from that, especially the uncontrollable. Life just gets in the way from that. So yeah, freedom is definitely linked towards, I think, everybody's linked towards that thing. And yeah, my mission in life is to try and make people a bit more self-aware. Studying yourself, study your brain, study what works for you, study what foods make you feel better, not in the instant, but in the overall sort of scheme of it. And yeah, you're definitely going to produce what sort of levels of exercise you need to do. But Tej, this has been absolutely fantastic. Really enjoyed this. Went in a few different directions of where I thought it'd go, but I think they're usually better like that. So thanks for giving up your time today.
everybody go and get Tej's book. I'd like to say how do they find you, but I think it's quite obvious how they find you. But where's the best places to find? Where's the best places to find you?
The best place to get a response from me is Instagram, tej.talks, but I'm on Clubhouse, Tej Talks. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn. Just type in Tej Talks into Google and it should just give you everything yellow.
And if they want to buy your training, which where do they sort of pick that sort of stuff up from?
So go on.
No, go on, go for it. Sorry, mate.
So if they go to tejtalks.learnworlds.com or even just tejsingh.me, you will have access to that platform for you to have a look at.
And the best place to buy books? Sorry, lots of questions. Yeah.
Well, Amazon is probably the best place to get it and the quickest place to get it. Some people have wanted signed copies. Maybe it'll be worth something in a couple of years. If you want a signed copy, DM me and I've got a separate link for that.
Okay, excellent. Tej, thanks for your time today, mate. Yeah, it's been really, really enjoyable. And look forward to networking with you in the future, mate.
Definitely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Cheers, mate. Bye.